and welcome to this overview, the first of a series of overviews on what I'm calling Thematics for your Introduction to Sociology course. And I should emphasize that all of these focus on the chapters that we're using in the core third edition of Connolly's text, You May Ask Yourself. This is the textbook that we're using in the class, and so I'll be referencing this, or rather overall, making generalizations about some of the topics and themes you'll encounter in the chapters. And this is the first of a series of 10 of these I'll be presenting to you. The idea behind suggesting a thematic is to say, what are the overarching concerns that we note in the chapters, and how can we get a very general understanding of those initially, such that we can do better in our collaborations and our discussion posts, and presumably also to have a holistic or broad-scale understanding necessary for the examinations in the class. So let's look at the first of a series of these, and this is on Chapter 1. And Chapter 1 specifically deals with the sociological imagination. Now, the sociological imagination is a very important concept, and I reference here a quote by C. Wright Mills, who said, "The sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relationship between the two within society." So C. Wright Mills was very interested in this idea that we should connect our own experiences of the world with the bigger world around us. And he typically said that more commonly, people in everyday life lack a sociological imagination. And thus he argued that it's desirable to have a sociological imagination, because he talks very early in his book, he says that people are engaged in a series of traps. You know, they're trapped in their job, they're trapped in their lives, in their relationships, in the political system, in work, and consumerism. And what are some ways then you could get out of these traps? And he says one way to do this is to reimagine the world around us through the sociological imagination. Now, we'll be coming back to this and talking more in depth about what this means. If you like, you can begin to read and understand what this is. But let me pose a few questions here that might generate some opportunities to think about the sociological imagination, or even beyond that term, looking at the world in a more critical sense, as I hope you'll begin to do in this Intro to Sociology class. So the first question I have for you today is, to what extent do we reflect on the nature of our lives, our relationships, and the world around us? So just think about that question a bit, answer that, reflect on that for your discussion post if you'd like for the week. Second, how might we use the approaches of sociology to analyze and better understand ourselves, others, and the worlds around us? And so this is also, I think, a question to reflect on, to consider, and to ask yourself, to what extent do I critically think about the world? Do I analyze the world? What do I reflect upon? Do I allow the media itself and consumer society and what politicians say and what authority figures say to me, do I allow that to be my definition of the truth? Or do I seek out alternative realities and alternative truths? And certainly this taps in with what we'll be considering in later chapters, including the social construction of reality. So as I think about the sociological imagination, these words come to mind: conducting analysis, reflection, or reflecting more critically and deeply on the world, ourselves, our social relationships, developing perspective or new ways of seeing the world and seeing ourselves, focusing on methods or ways to understand the social worlds around us, new forms of awareness. Again, how am I aware? What am I aware of? What do I use to analyze the world? And then that word imagination, because C. Wright Mills is basically saying we lack the imagination to truly understand how the world is. So I think when you consider the sociological imagination for this week, focus on some of these keywords, these perspectives, focus on these two questions that I've asked of you, and begin to develop an appreciation and awareness of why C. Wright Mills felt that the sociological imagination was so significant. So I hope I see you back then on future focus on cultural thematics of the chapters. The next one, of course, will be on Chapter 2.